Welcome to another episode of Draw With Me Kids. We've got the episode number right this time, 114, and we're doing weather. Wow. How do you draw weather? Well,
that's a question.
It's a good question. Grab your pens, pencils, papers, pixel art, erasers, and let's find out. So one of the things about weather is you can have wind, which you can't really see, can you? How can you tell it's windy out?
All their objects are all blowing in the wind.
Everything is affected by the wind. That's right. And what about when it's rain? Maybe it's just drizzling out. How can you tell it's raining? Sometimes you can see the raindrops. Sometimes you can't. What would you go for to see if it was raining? Probably look to see if it's wet, right? So those are a couple of things we can do to show the effects of weather on objects. So let me just use one of my scrap pieces of paper here to show you a couple ways we can show weather. So if we have a cute little flower growing in the sun, really simple flower, it might be standing straight up like this. This is a very basic flower. This looks a bit like a sunflower. So it might be standing up just like that. That would be a nice bright sunny day. Its petals would be open. Maybe little bees would be buzzing around it. That would be a calm, normal day. But if it's windy, maybe you want to show the wind blowing over. Depends on how much wind there is. So you would pick a side that the wind is blowing to and draw all those elements. There's a leaf. There's a leaf. There's the stem. And maybe some of the petals are a bit blowing off in the wind. Maybe you just see the back of the flower like this. And you see some petals sort of blowing off. That looks like it's being pushed, right? By the wind. So that's one way you can show the difference between, and all the grass would be blowing in the same direction. So you'd think about how the wind would affect what's on your page. And blow some leaves around. And if it's raining, maybe that flower really likes the rain. Maybe its petals are going to be just a little bit more droopy. Maybe they're going to be a little smaller on top. Maybe they're even folded over a little bit because they're wet. They're heavy with raindrops. And you can make little sort of dewdrops and stuff on the thing. And maybe its stem is a little bit shorter because it's leaning down, and maybe our leaves are out a little bit more because they're weighed down with water. Or maybe we would drip some water just like that, just to show that the drips of the rain are on it. So these are a few things we can do to sort of help tell the story of weather in our picture. I don't have any trivia on weather. I could have had trivia on weather. There's lots we could talk about on weather. But that's okay. We're just going to have fun drawing stuff. If you want to draw things like clouds, you got to think about what kind of day you're going to have. If you're having a nice, easy, breezy day, one of the easiest ways to draw clouds is to draw them like little cotton balls, little fuzzy cotton balls like that. Well, that's not a very good color to choose, Mom. Sammy? It's not a very good color to choose. It's not easy to see. Let's try that. So maybe this is how you've drawn clouds in the past. Maybe you've drawn really puffy, cute little... I'm just drawing a little happy face on this guy. There's a happy cloud. Will look like a little cotton ball. If you want to add a little bit of realism to clouds when you're drawing. One of the things you can do just to add an interesting look to them, something that you'd sort of see more from the bottom beneath them or from the side, is to draw a straight line and then draw the little bumps in a variety up the top like that. And that gives it a look of a really fun, cute little cumulus nimbus, little cloud. And you can also even do that sort of similar shape, but maybe you want to do more like your cotton ball. You can give it a little bit of poof on the bottom, a little bit of fluffiness in the bottom, and you can get really big on top. And that's another way you can do clouds. Now, Miss Rainbows is creating.
It's a cloud.
There's a cloud. And clouds can be in pretty much cumulonimbus clouds. They're just basically those lazy. Miss Rainbows is showing all of them. Those are the lazy ones that are just sort of drifting along, that if they gather enough moisture and enough temperature difference, they can build up and start making other kind of cloud types. The cumulonimbus is just the little guys that are the fluffy ones that float through the sky. You can sort of put little tiny shadows in them, because you can sort of see a bit of the sky and around it. And it gives that fluffy look to it, like we did with our sheep. Those are clouds, what clouds can look like if they're a nice sunny day. But what if they're really grumpy clouds? What if they're clouds that want to rain on you? You can use a similar kind of idea. Then you want to change your colors. And Miss Rainbows is doing one that is a whole bunch of clouds together, making a very familiar and kind of scary pattern, aren't you? Anybody guess what Miss Rainbows is drawing that's weather related? It is a giant cloud formation. Cloud and wind formation that she's drawing. So if you want to draw like thunderheads, you can think about how tall a cloud can get, but thunderheads are also kind of flatten out on the top a bit. So if you're going for something a little more stormy, you might have like very odd angles, very dark angles on your cloud if you're looking for realism. It's one thing you can do for it, or trying to give it a little bit more substance. And those clouds, can I put my gray away? I did my other gray. I don't want to go super dark just yet. Maybe I do. So maybe you would color them in. Very gray color, very dark gray color. And grays and blues, greens somewhat. Why greens? Because they'd be reflecting the grass and the light from the ground. So grass and trees and leaves. And the big thundercloud that you see in the sky. Miss Rainbows is being paged by one of her friends.
Oh, is he calling me?
Yep. It's okay.
I don't think this friend knows too much about this, that we'd be streaming today.
That's all right. So you can make everything around this cloud really dark, almost like night. Have you ever been out in a storm or watching out the window and you see these super dark clouds coming? That's one way you can sort of do it. You can get really, really dark, thunderous clouds. And that is another way you can sort of describe the weather. Miss Rainbows is doing clouds that sort of look a bit like this. She sort of started with a triangle shape. You can sort of see she's got a really cool triangle shape going on, and what she's doing is making lines and shapes that are sort of going and sort of spread up into the air and other clouds a bit, but and that's kind of suggesting something, isn't it? What does it look like it's happening in Miss Rainbow's? Looks a bit like a cup or something, right? But it's a tornado, I think. It's a twister, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a tornado she's drawing. And this is sort of a way you can do it. You want to put a little bit of dark in the middle there, where if you're drawing it from the side to make it look like a cone, you can draw it sort of like this. Just in quick little circles and make them smaller and smaller until you get to the ground. It's another way you can draw a tornado or a hurricane as a drawing. And often what happens in these kind of things, you can see some interesting weather. Oh, I've got some yellows over here. Why don't I just stick with the color I put in front of me? You can get, and actually I don't want yellow, I want blue. I like to do, so when we typically draw lightning, which is, oh, I'm sorry everybody, I just hit the camera. If we draw lightning, we typically think of like a Pikachu tail, which is shaped like a lightning bolt. We think of this very common shape. So it's a triangle. I just basically do the zigzag shape and then I build on it. I make a triangle for the point and thicken up things as I go up to the top. That is how I make a lightning bolt shape. If I want to draw a very basic shape on lightning. But if I want to draw lightning in a painting, one of my characters or electricity going through, I like to take a blue marker, a light blue marker, or a light blue crayon, and sort of make the jagged thing, kind of lines. Leave a little bit of space, and they can branch out a bit like a tree for forked lightning. And I like using light blue as my indication of energy and light.
You can tell that we're squished up right at the moment because I'm at the computer.
Yeah, I'm behind her. Hello. I moved everything around. Hello. That's not my head. That's my head. I even have my hair is short.
We got a haircut.
We got a haircut this week. I like to make darker lines go around it so like you can sort of see the electricity just sort of skittering around all over the place, because while a lightning bolt is, well, pretty direct, it can kind of not follow a form or a shape. Not really. It's not always like our Zeus lightning bolts that we see, or these jagged lightning bolts that we see. But it's a really good shape to start with. It's a really good shape to make people know right away this is a lightning bolt because it's zigzags. That is a lightning bolt. And if you're drawing a meteorological map, or like a weather report, meteorological, so to do with the weather. If you're making a map of the weather, you might see these as the symbol on those maps. Hello, how are you? Oh, I just pushed a little hello heart button. I just gave myself a heart. Hello from Gatineau. One of the things I wish that this would do is keep the chat up on my screen, but sometimes it doesn't like to stay.
I can check the chat too.
I have to put a little bit of blue in there too. the sky. But yeah, that would be how I would draw my lightning. I want to be a little less symbolic and cartoony. It's still a little cartoony, a little stylized, but that's one way that I like to do it to give it a really neat effect. Because it happens so quickly in the sky that it's hard to really capture anything that as it's happening. It's sort of like the after effect. You're seeing the after image of it. I'm doing a very quick coloring in of this. With the blue, it does make it look a bit like it's a regular sky, but I'm going to change that. I'll show you how. I'm going to take one of the grays that we were working with. And with markers, you can sort of layer colors together. I'm going to leave just a little bit of that blue behind around the lightning. Then I'm going to start making it a little grayer sky. And that's how I get my blue-gray when I'm using a marker. This one's almost out of juice. I'm so sad. My marker's almost out of juice. I have to get some stuff to replenish it. Apparently, you can refill these ones. I'm glad because these markers can be expensive buying them brand new. I wish I had known that, and I would have saved the ones that ran out already and bought new stuff. I did not do that. I would much rather refill them than constantly having to replace them. That's not very good, is it? Not very environmentally friendly. We gotta be careful. We gotta look out for our environment, don't we?
Yeah.
Especially because what is happening when the environment gets a little wonky. You get to see more and more storms, more and more weird weather happening. Like right now, I was reading a story about how it's the worst drought in Europe in a long, long time. And some interesting and neat things are happening, but also kind of scary is ships that have been buried in the Danube, for example, since World War II. So 70 to 80 years ago are being unearthed because they're exposing themselves to the world again because there's not a lot of water in the Danube, so hulls of the ship, 20 different ships are popping up that were otherwise underneath. Look at all this stuff flying around. This is sort of what we talked about earlier on when we first started, is showing the effect of weather on things. Like our little flower right at the beginning. Where did I put the little flower? There it is. Being blown over and soggy and looking fresh. That is another way we can show things, is the effect of the weather. And look at all these things. Looks like there's a tree trunk and car wheels and cars and oh my gosh, this is chaos. I love it. So you can also have, instead of all this storm weather, we can have other kind of weather too. Right? You can have, I'll put my storms away, pull out a new page, which I have been using for other things. I always try to reuse the paper where I can. If it's not good on one side paper, then it's sketchbook paper that the markers come through, that kind of stuff. When you draw as much as I do, you want to make sure you're reusing the papers. So maybe you want to draw a nice Sunny day. It's a summer day. And you have a few lazy clouds. That's what I'm going to draw. I'm drawing just the straight line where I want this cloud to go in the sky. Maybe there's one behind it. So this is another thing you can do. You can just sort of, if you think about how clouds are.
Kind of looks like he's smiling, this tree.
Maybe this tree is having a fun time. Who knows? So here I did a card I painted of clouds. And I made them little shapes. Like I have an elephant cloud. I have a dragon cloud. Sort of appearing in the sky. So you can kind of do those things too with your clouds. Gentle little clouds in the sky. I think we did a little bit of a scene when we did landscapes almost 2 years ago now. Maybe it was in our first year. I don't remember. We talked a little bit about skies and stuff. And maybe some of my younger artists, when you want to show a nice sunny day, it's kind of fun to put your very own happy sun in the picture, right? You can do that. You can totally make a big circle and a face that way and put a happy sun in the picture. But if you think about taking a photograph, or looking at photographs that other people have taken, you don't often see the sun unless it's setting or rising. Because the sun can have a big effect on your art or on your picture. Because it's really bright, and rather than seeing, well, I'll try that in just a second, but rather than seeing the sun, is that a little bit darker? Just a bit. I'm going to put this guy in just a bit as a shadow base so the clouds sort of stand out. Do that. One of the things, actually, I'm going to bring back the card. One of the things you might notice in this card, the clouds look fluffy and white, but I didn't use the color white all that frequently in it. In fact, I use yellow for the sun glow. I use lots of blue, and I only use a little bit of white for the highlight of where that cloud is. I even have some purples in there. So clouds are so many different colors. They can fill, they can take on lots and lots of different colors. This is not a very good gradient.
I'm gonna color it now. I'm gonna color it now.
Okay. Go over and blend that a little bit. I don't think this paper's going to be, this paper's not very thirsty, so it might not work very well. That's okay. So what I'm going to do is just sort of do this, and I'm going to see if I can blend. Blend, blend, blend. Markers, sometimes what you can do is get them wet enough and saturated enough that it drags the color of the colors around it and blends them. You can do this with alcohol-based markers, which is what I'm using. You can do it with watercolor markers. And I think the thing with the watercolor markers is that actually these are working out pretty well. I don't often use Copic markers, so I'm getting a nice treat here with the blending capabilities. This is why I've got the extra pages around, because it will bleed through too. This paper is very thin. But what it's doing is pulling all that color into that sky color, and I'm laying down. Wow. Oh my goodness, friends. That was a bit cool. I'm pleasantly surprised by that. I had not blended with my Copic markers. And I usually use my chameleon pens, and they blend really easily because they are intended to. But they don't have, not between color per se, but between whites, so you can get a good gradient of color. Anyway, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed. I learned something about my markers. So yeah, I'm just going to put a little bit of shadow in there. I don't think I have a yellow that's light enough. Maybe I do. Or I consider putting just a little bit of yellow on there. Do I have a yellow light enough? Maybe that one's light enough. Let's try it. Oh, this one's been dirtied. Tip of my marker is dirty. To clean it out. So if you have that much color left on your marker, it's getting a bit better. You just run it back and forth gently on a paper until your color is coming true to what you remember it. And I'm just putting a little tint of yellow up on the top to imply that the sun is glowing on it. Look at this tornado. Wow. I don't know how we're going to make a die cut on that, but it's going to be cool, whatever we do. So if you're making a really neat picture like this, you want to draw a landscape, one of the things you might want to consider doing is drawing in a dark blue, whatever your background part is, the horizon. Maybe it's just a little line, maybe has some trees or things that are standing up there. Just use a dark, I use blue. Maybe there's a tree or a bush there as the base color to that layer, because it pushes it back. Pushes the color back. Using green would really make it stand out. So what I'm going to do is put the blue underneath and then run the green on top. And save that green, that darker green that I have here, for something like the bushes here, so it can be seen. And the tree branches and stuff, they can be seen. It's not to say that I'm leaving it that color.
On Pixelart, I have a very easy way to make my shadows.
Yeah?
I have this light and darken tool here that I can choose whether I make it dark or I make it light. And then whatever color I want, I can, if I want to do the actual color, just color pick it and put it down.
Cool. That's a neat way to do it.
Now it's time to add.
What am I doing here? I'm adding a field in front of it. And let's just make this blending a bit. I'm sort of leaving a little bit of this white space because the next color I'm going to put down is going to be just a bit of a lighter green, and so on until we get closer to the front.
Big circle. Okay. So I know what blue color do I want. I'll do this one. There you go.
I had a nice day. And if you really want to add a bit of a sunshine over here, maybe the sun is right here. Let's put the sun in. You have a very bright rays coming from it. Can almost not look at the sun. It's so bright.
You can also do stuff like double shadows, because I don't know if you noticed, but if you put a shadow on top of a shadow where they overlap is a little darker.
Okay.
You can do double shadows by just double clicking on something. It makes it darker, or you can make it super bright if you wanted as well with the lighter option.
Excuse me. And there, I put the sun in. Look at yours. Wow. I'm making it as a circle. Okay, okay. That's cool. So this is a really nice sunny day. On my side, Miss Rainbows is doing tornado. And it's not really, it's sort of a draw along that we're doing here, but we're also sort of giving you tips to try and do your own type of weather, pictures. Different ways you can use the shapes to create the kind of weather you want to show. It is bigger normally than I get her to draw, because well, it needs to be. If it were the regular size, we wouldn't be able to print it properly, and I'll just leave it at that. There are the storms, clouds, tornadoes, regular clouds, lightning bolts, and then happy sunshine outdoors. On mine, we won't bother looking at the flowers, that's okay.
Look, so let's look at the flowers.
You want to see the flowers?
I didn't get to see the flowers.
There's the flowers. A stand-up flower, a windy flower, and a rainy flower. Pretty cool, right?
Thanks for watching Draw With Me Kids Edition, episode 114. Weather!
We hope you had fun drawing your own weather, whether it was nice weather or tornado-y weather.
If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and share the video with all your friends. That way, nobody misses Draw With Me Kids Edition ever again.
Yay! We'll see you guys next time with art supplies.
Bye.